kind of something. All right. We'll see if. Welcome to Friday Night Live Stream, where we're going to be discussing or talking about our friend Jim Losee. As I pour a drink waiting for Terry, um, those of you who knew Jim Losee may not know that he passed this week. So that's what we're talking about is Jim. Jim, Jim all day long. We've been talking about Jim for a while. So until people get into the room, hey Lawnmower, hey Bob, hey Rose, there Terry, finally Terry. All right. We're
Hey, hold on
yes.
one second, because Rose is here and it's not a big group. Rose, my daughter was here yesterday, showed her your picture. She thinks you're gorgeous, girl. Okay, now go on with what you're saying, man.
Okay. Hope you heard that, Rose. That was Shop Mom. If you heard that, just nod your head. I don't know. We can't see you. We can't see it on your head. But anyway, we lost a very dear friend, Jim Losee. For those who do not know who Jim Losee was, I guess we shouldn't say, Jim goes way back in the automotive world. Worked on the Buick Grand National program as some consulting and some other work he did with that. Worked for Vic Edelbrock, right? A few desks from Vic himself. Marketing for Edelbrock, was the technical editor, not just an editor for a hot rod magazine, but the technical editor. Here's just one of them. Popular Hot Rodding, you may have heard of it before, Carcraft magazine. I had to get this one because we were reminiscing last Thursday with Jim, and Cam Bentley and Tuner were on the phone and they were telling stories, and we were just sitting back listening.
That was actually on, it was not on a Thursday.
It wasn't a Thursday?
It was on the 17th, it was on a Monday.
It was on the 17th, on the Monday. What day it was, okay, don't hold me for the actual dates. But we were reminiscing, and the stories were going on. And some of the stories, I'll share some of the stories with you because they're something else. They're crazy stories. And I had to get this Popular Hot Rodding because of the story that Cam told and Jim told us, and Tuner. And we have tons of magazines. If you have any old magazines, Carcraft, Popular Hot Rodding, look in the first cover and you'll see there, it'll list the editors. Jim Losee was a technical editor, and then he worked for the Peterson Publishing Company for many years, Edelbrock for many years, Vintage Air, Smetting Motors, all the different collaborations that Jim has been involved with many, many, many years. He was a dear friend, a mentor. For the last 10 years that we've been here, that's how we met Jim. He walked in. And maybe I should start off the story of how I met Jim. The phone rings and someone is asking for timing tape. Those that know don't know what I'm talking about, timing tape. I said, yes, we have it. And he was quite shocked because he's called around and no one even knows what timing tape was. After explaining, no one even knew what it was. And no, we don't have it. No, we don't have it. So he calls, I have it. And I say, first of all, but wait. What size timing tape do you have? 7-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch? We're talking about timing tape that goes on a harmonic balancer. So I have more than one. Yes, do I have timing tape, but what size? Still thinking, you know. Anyway, he was quiet. I'll be right down. So a little bit before this story, when we opened up our bank, and we're at the bank, and we're talking to the lady at the bank, at our bank, and I won't give you the name of the bank. The name, we're talking to Jeannie, actually, and which is Jim's wife. At the time, we didn't know. She said, "Oh, my husband used to work for a company that did automotive stuff." And we're like, "Really? What company?" "I don't know. I think he has a red hat at home, and maybe it starts with E. I don't know. We still can't even think. What, you know?" Anyway, he comes in, and I go over to. I worked with Jim McCarco. This is Brian. So Brian, there you go. You can. I wish you could interject some stories, but I go to the counter, walk up to the counter, I grab the timing tape. He tells me what size harmonic balancer he's running. And before I give it to him, I say, what do you want with timing tape? Do you know what this is for? I said, it's not just a decorative tape you put on the balancer. I mean, and I'm still, because most people don't know what timing tape is. And he gets, Brian would know this, and anybody who knows Jim Losee, he gets on the rev limiter pretty quickly. He doesn't have patience for a lot of stuff, but he's very bright, very intelligent, doesn't have a lot of patience. He's like, what do you mean? I go, all right. So we talked about it a little bit at that counter, and we started talking timing curves. We started talking. I'm like, I handed it to him. And I said, well, let's go to the counter and I'll write you up. So we go to the other counter, and I'm writing him up, and somebody walks in. A lady walks in, and I go, I'll be right with you. And she says, no, I'm here with Jim. That's my husband. And I look over and I go, Jeannie. So we met her before we even met Jim. So I said, you said your husband, he worked, a little bit in the automotive stuff. This guy's a genius. I mean, just that quick, we hit it off. And I don't know, we went on for an hour. And Jeannie's like, I'm going to go in the car, go next door to eat, whatever she did. And that was our first meeting. And we went on. And we're talking timing curves. We're talking, and Jim wasn't much to start just telling you everything he did and who Jim Losee was. I didn't know. He's still, for a long time, he was just a cool cat. And then
while you're talking about
yes.
him being a cool cat, I just wanted to welcome Brian H.
Mm-hmm.
to the room. He worked with Jim at CarCraft. And
yeah.
Another gentleman here, Wildman 318, who says he's sorry for your loss. He's Bill Williams from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And I have a suspicion perhaps he's here for Jim as well.
Oh, well, good. I mean, feel free to add to some stories. I wish I knew how to make multicams go. Brian, Jim, we talked about the stories. It was a while back, been a while back, and we connected on Instagram, and it was because of Edelbrock or something. And then of course Jim, I go, Jim, and yes, we've heard the stories, the stories. The longer that I got to know Jim, for a long time, we still didn't even know, it was Jim. Jim was really frustrated with people because he doesn't have much patience for. I don't want to use the words
he suffer fools gladly.
There you go. So we were talking timing. Somebody walks up to the counter and kind of interjects. It kind of listens to us and kind of interjects something like he knows what we're talking about. Totally didn't know what we're talking about, but he interjected got into the conversation. Jim says, Dan, I got to go. Doing this, I got to go. And he just leaves. Okay, well, a customer, I take care of the customer. A few days later, whatever, Jim comes back. We have some more stories on when he came back, why he came back. But he says, Dan, how do you put up with such dumbass? how? Oh my God. And he went on and on. And he goes, I go, Jim, it's a customer. We're building him a motor. I mean, not everybody, we're building him an engine. Not everybody is at that level. So we find out what level you're in, and I don't get, like you're a dumbass. I find out what you're comfortable with, what your vocabulary is, and then I'll speak in your language. If you're a cook, we'll talk about cooking in describing about your engine. You cooked it, I can find a common denominator. So anyway, Jim comes back and Jim had been retired. He came down from California to the beautiful Texas Hill Country, a little bit north of San Antonio, and didn't have a lot of gearhead buds here, but boy, he has a lot of buds. So he started hanging out at the shop. And then Jeannie would call and talk to shop mom and say, look, just run him home. Just, I'm sorry that he's always wasting y'all's time. And I said, wasting my time? Oh my God, every time he comes in here, I learn something. And I say many, many times in many different scenarios, I want to be surrounded by people that know more than I do. I don't want to be the smartest one in a room. some people that may be, great, kudos. I want to be the dumbest one in the room because I'm in a room with a lot of intelligent people that I can, listen to. I talk a lot, but I say, like when Jim, I listen a lot. So I said, oh, Jim's not bothering us, and this is still before even you really who Jim Losee was. I think one day we needed a Protronics ignition or something, and then a customer had come in because Jim started hanging out more. I said, "You're welcome here every single day. We'll make a room for you. I'll make an office for you, and you can just hang." In 10 years, every engine we've built here, he's in some way collaborated on it, helped on it, sat next to me while we built some quality motors. The compressed air engine, Jim, I got pictures in with the throttle body. It was new technology. Jim and me were like this as just technical. I mean. It was just we never ceased to. In 10 years, it never was like I've outlived Jim. No, it was just we were just firing always, always a laugh, always a good time. Jim was my cigar buddy. So Jim was my cigar buddy. It was Jim who once he found out I like cigars and. He's like, well, I love cigars, and we started doing a Friday night cigars. It was just me and Jim, and then Jeff, and then Kirk, and then we started getting another little group. Everybody wanted to be in the cigar and beer group, but it's when you have a little group of real good friends, somebody out of the loop could throw you off, and we were just so. When it became Kirk was the next one, and it was like, we're firing all along. We got another third wheel. We can't have a third wheel. We got 4 wheels now, and so a lot of people wanted to. Oh man, can you invite me? I love to. It's not about that. It's not about that. It's about gearheads, and it became.
Okay, tell them what I said.
Yeah.
I called it old farts talking about cars.
Old farts talking about cars.
And that's what they were, and it was a great group. It was so much fun. Obviously, I was probably the only woman in the room, still the boss, that's how I am. But if y'all don't have a circle of friends to sit around and be safe with and talk with, gotta make you one, people. You gotta make you one. Aside from this one, we love you all, but people need friends, and we need to remember that.
And in this group of 4 or 5 of us, it didn't get any bigger than that. Maybe had a couple of.
Yeah, it did. You had a couple of stragglers who would come in.
And we allow Jim would have to okay it. Actually, we all as a group would okay it, but Jim was
he didn't suffer fool's play.
Exactly. And if you all want to know, I'm sure Brian knows me, but what does this mean? Not being monetized for this one, I could go ahead and tell you it's another finger in your hand, but he didn't do. I asked Jim, I said, Jim, what was that when you left? You were, and Jim was like, he didn't deserve the best. He didn't deserve the best. So he gave you, that's all you deserve. So if you got that from Jim, because you didn't deserve the best. If you got the best, you still deserve that. So
before we get too much further along, Wayne's World would like to know what kind of cigar is that?
Oh,
I was going to say a used one, but
this is a used one that I've been spoken to. Actually, it's the one that I had when I was with Jack. We would do the Cohiba. What is it? Cohiba? I can't even pronounce it. It's a Cuban cigar. I like more of a mild cigar. Jim was a manly cigar. Jim would inhale. And they made fun of me at one time because I don't inhale a cigar, and Jim could inhale a cigar, and so could Jeff. I'm talking about inhale it, blow bubbles, and I'm like bubbles, whatever, clouds, and Jim was a man's man. I need more of a good flavor cigar. Just so I don't remember even what I was saying about Jim.
I'm sorry, I should have interrupted you about that.
I know.
Well, you were talking about allowing people to join the group.
That's right. So the group that we had, the tight group, we had kind of this thing. When guys get around, Shop Mom is one of the guys. We talk in a different language than most. I don't want to say that most people talk. I shouldn't say that, but in the world that I'm in, a shop language is not necessarily the same as it might not be politically correct. Well, when we got in our group, if you were an outsider and you listened to our conversation, you might be offended in many, many ways. All our little tight group, we knew each other's hearts. We knew where we were coming from. It was a joke, buddy. It was a joke. We could take a joke. The politically correct stuff, we would say, it's kind of like Smokey Eunuch. If you go with us when we're reading the Smokey Eunuch books, it's not for the faint of heart. Take it for what it is. So we were really kind of, Jim didn't like an outsider in the group because it just ruined the vibe, and Jim was, I'm out of here. So we had to be somebody that could fit in the groove, could listen, joke. Also, every Friday, pretty much, it was somebody else's day. What does that mean? Is that today we pick on Danny, tomorrow we pick on Jim, the next Friday we pick on. So it was going to be your day, and it didn't start out that way. But boy, one joke falls down, or you're drinking a drink like this, and then everybody. And that day, everybody just hammers you. So if you weren't for the faint of heart, if you didn't click in this little group, you'd go home crying. It wasn't. It was fun. It was unique.
Cruel.
Huh?
I said they could be cruel.
We could be cruel, but we never were. It's like we can pick on each other, but nobody else from outside could pick on us as a group. So there's just some of the Jim story. That's how we met Jim. Jim was a tuning guru, timing in one of the.
Wait, first and foremost.
Yes.
I pride myself on remembering part numbers. Jim Losee could remember part numbers like nobody's business.
He worked early on, and I wish I need to get the full story because I learned more as we go. Jim wasn't one to just tell you all kinds of stuff. You found stuff as you went along, but Jim worked at a Chevy dealership early on, young 20s, and he remembered part numbers. We had a cruise night, years ago, and one of our customers has a Camaro with I think Brembo brakes, and it has all this suspension, tons of stuff on it. Jim walks out there and looks at it. We come inside, and he says, I could have built all of that with GM parts, and better than that, 11-inch brakes. And he went on and on. So, Mark comes in, we come in, and he's like, no, you couldn't, well, we're CarQuest. We can check with the CarQuest computer. Jim just starts going, and he gives a part number. Type it in, and sure enough, it's an Impala 11-inch rotor that's like on a Caprice Impala police car. And he gives out another number, and he goes, and Jim said, we got to get it from a salvage. I said, we get it all brand new from CarQuest. No, that was one of my things that I've been able to find them. So it's a challenge. But anyway, Jim was giving out numbers, and we were the sway bar off of this, and the 10-bolt rear end off of this will hold as much as a 9-bolt, and he was giving out all these numbers. And then he had one number that we couldn't find. And I remember so early on, the next day he calls me at the house. He calls me the next day. He inverted or he left out a digit on that number. It drove him crazy. So he went and looked up that number, and the number was right. What we were putting in, but one digit was short, and it just drove him crazy.
Yes, it did.
He remembered numbers like crazy. What does Brian have to say?
Brian says that's exactly how I remember Jim when we worked together. I'm glad to hear that he never changed.
Oh, till the
very end, guys. I want y'all to know we have boxes of parts in the showroom that Jim ordered after going home from the hospital on hospice care. Up until the very end, Jim Losee was building his next car in his head. And
the rims came in 2 days ago. Jim's been, so we built Jim a while back. I was going on about the Petronics. We had it, and I love Petronics, but not everybody. Memory, I use everybody. A lot of people complain about Petronics going out. Oh, it left me on the side of the road. It is not like the Mallory ignition, people. You don't have a problem. In 10 years we've been here, we've never lost an ignition. There's a difference. It is on a Petronics. You have to, when it tells you there, the impedance of the wires, the ohms, the coil to use, that's not a suggestion. So they go take the points out, put Petronics in, and leave everything. The paperwork, we're men. We don't read paperwork, right? And then the ohms and the wires are wrong. The coil's wrong. You use a ballast resistor and you shouldn't have, or you should have, and that takes out the module. We've never lost a module in 10 years. Why? Because if I at least check the ohmage on the wire. If all that's new, I'm going to check it. If not, if I'm building it from scratch, I'll order everything. I'll order from Electronics. I love when you're doing a vintage a conversion, they got black wires that look just like the factory black wire, but it's a badass wire. And so I'll order the coil from Protronics. You can get it in chrome and everything else. You can also get it in black. And the little Protronics decal peels right off, and it looks like a stock black coil. So when you're doing a retrofit, I love them. Never lost them. When me and Jim were like, hit it off like that, somebody says something in the counter, and I say, no, I'm going to use Protronics if I'm going to convert it over from points. That's where we're going to go. Well, Jim was the end all to all knowledge in the automotive world. And Jim would just hold on. He'd go get his phone. He calls up the owner of Protronics. Hey, how you been? And I mean, he had a list for me for SEMA of all these people that early on when I first met him, he had a list of, you need to go see this, you need to go see him, and then he called everybody and told them I was coming. So I go to the Protronics booth, and I still don't know who this person is, but Jim told me, go to these booths, I want to report back, Jim, I want to report back So I go, then I ask for him, and I'm bad with names. Jim remembered everybody's name, everybody's numbers and names, and me, I get you pretty close. So I go ask, still can't remember who his name was, and they're like, and they go talk to somebody, and there's some guy holding court at this big table, and he's like, so I go over there and I said, yeah, don't want me to bother you? Jim just told me to come by. Oh my God, it's like I brought Jim with me. Oh my God, carte blanche, people are having meetings with him over there at SEMA, and he's like, whoa, sit down, I was Jim, and we visited like I knew him forever. He's like, you know what? Jim told me to take care of you. We're going to set you up direct. You might not have the buying power. This is what you got to buy in, and you got to do all these things. He goes, you're in if you want it. If you don't need to sell that much internet, tell Jim to call. We'll get you whatever you need. But I'll set you up. You don't have to go through any hoops of how much you buy or nothing. And I'm like, whoa, that's awesome. But so Jim knew everyone. That's how I met Smitty. Those of y'all who knew Smitty from Edelbrock, this past SEMA, we're at SEMA, and for the last 2 or 3 years, Jim's health's been getting a little bit worse, bad. He was on a cane for a while. And he's been wanting to go to SEMA. And we're always, well, come on, I will push you in a wheelchair through SEMA. He says next year. This year, he wasn't doing as good. And he said, no, you go ahead and go. I'll go next year. Well, we go and we visit with Smitty at SEMA at the Edelbrock booth. Those that know Smitty, another wealth of knowledge that I met through Jim. And every time that I would call Smitty or talk to him, or known him for a while now, we always ended with, how is Jim? Or started, how is Jim? And then you tell Jim I said hi. And at SEMA, we're talking about Jim's health. He wanted to come. I told him I'd push him around, and and we'll do it next year. And Smitty's last words, it's hug Jim for us, and and then we're talking about Jim's health. Is he going to make it till next year? To be honest, that's what we're talking about, and we're doing that. And then Smitty passes before Jim does. So that was a tough one for Jim. It was one of his he had a lot of friends, but he had a lot of close friends, and that was a tough one. And I remember telling Jim, I remember it was last week, hey, Smitty is going to greet you at the gate, and Shop Mom says his mom is going to greet him at the gate. All right, but I got a feeling that Jim and Smitty right now are tearing some stuff up. All right, I don't want to just keep going, but I will, because I got a story about the press lane.
Oh, that's a good story.
Hi from Kingsville. We love Kingsville.
That's you, Jeep it.
And in San Antonio right now, it's Fiesta. We're not at Fiesta. We're here with you. With y'all. We're going to be here with y'all anyway. We can have beer and do Fiesta food at home. So
And actually, today is probably not a good idea to be at Fiesta anyway, as it winds down, as we are under severe thunderstorm watch and expecting baseball-sized hail and 75-mile-per-hour winds. So, ooh, nothing like Texas Hill Country.
Who's pranking Terry?
No, Venom, that's a, yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, More, we were reminiscing, whatever. We were going through stories, and Kirk got Jim's phone. Jim wanted Kirk to dial some numbers for him so that he could talk to some of his buddies. So, in talking to Cam, this is Cam Bailey, another editor. He's in here as well. In fact, that's why I got this page 80. Oh, in fact, there is an article by Jim Losee right there. You'll see Jim Losee right there on the top, technical editor on 5-speeds. And this is back in 1984. So Jim would write the real articles that Jim would say, not the feel-good articles. Oh, it's a pretty car. You know, what is it? Pretty car, tree, big, whatever.
No, it's fire hot, tree pretty.
Fire hot, tree pretty. That wasn't Jim. Jim wrote the technical stuff. And oh, in one of the Carcraft magazines, back before there was the Power Tour, all these hot rod different things, they had an early, I have to get the magazine out, and it was a quarter mile, it was the 0 to 60, the slalom, the braking, all this stuff that was the early on, like the Power Tour. And Jim and his buddy in a white El Camino, they win. And in the article it says the guy's name, I'm bad with names, I know Jim, and Edelbrock's guru, Jim Losee. So he did a lot of stuff. He told me when he was at Edelbrock, he actually helped, I believe it was his baby, was the removable timing cover. The one that has aluminum timing cover that you can pull off without pulling your pan. Jim Losee. The Texas test car turnaround. I'm going to tell you a little story about this one. It's more about Cam Bentley and Tuner, two of Jim's very, very, very good friends. And they told the story when we were visiting with Jim. That's why I had to go. I went to eBay and got this. So, and what they said is that these car editors, anytime there was more than one car editor together, it was a race. So they've always, raced all the way around. So they actually had a lane. It was the white line, and that was the press lane. So if you crossed the white line to pass somebody, that was okay because you were the press. You were a writer, you were the press. So they had the press lane. There's one story. Don't remember if Cam was in one car, a Tuner, another. They mentioned different editors. All had different cars, Mustang, Camaro, all the different cars. Jim was in a car. They would loan you a car so that you could drive and then write an article about it. They're going 100 and some miles an hour, and they would all change. It's a race. Anytime they went anywhere, it was a race.
And tell him what was Jim's motto.
Well, Jim, his
not his nickname.
Not his nickname.
But what did he say? Get on it?
Yeah, you either get on it or get out. You either get on it or get out of it. So you're either going to get on it or get out of it. That's it. Tuner, which I, hearing these stories, I'm like, he must have been an awesome tuner, right? No, that was his name was Van Toon, which I think is a rock star name. Can you imagine? And now Van Toon, coming out. So his name, it was Tuner, but it wasn't because it was a tuner. He was the finesse driver. Like what they say is that he could go around any track probably faster than anybody else. He knew when the tire was going to break loose. So he was finesse. He can make the car go faster than anybody else. Jim's nickname was Animal. And it's like 10 years and I didn't know his nickname was Animal? It made perfect sense. So you either get on it or you get out of it. So that was it. He just knew pedal as far as they would go, and he drove the tar out of it. So they're going down the California, down one of these highways, and Jim goes into a rest stop. I can say this now because what are you going to do? Go after Jim? Go into a rest stop. Goes into a rest stop at over 110 miles an hour, goes flying through the rest stop with people in the rest stop, comes out over the rest stop and flies back onto the highway. So he's in the back, rest stop, flies, ends up in number one. True story. There's been a lot of people talking about this, or a lot of you and editors, we heard this story is myth. And Cam Bentley and Tuner said, no, this is fact. Jim did just do this. This is not just one of those stories. So that's one of the stories of Jim. Now the other story is they're in California, and I found the picture of the Camaro. I should have brought him up and showed pictures. Jim used to own a 72 split bumper Camaro. And then we find out everybody kind of owned it in the automotive world. Cam Bentley ended up buying it. It was actually in the movie Billy Jack. Was that it, Shop Mom?
It was in Billy Jack.
So it was his car. What was the actor's name?
Tom McLaughlin.
So Tom McLaughlin had his car in the movie Billy Jack. The young kids don't know what it is, but now you got something to go look at this weekend. It was his personal car. Well, they ended up, the movie company, production company ended up owning the car after that. It got used by everybody. So whenever somebody wanted to send you exhaust or something, or it had a Traco engine in it, which would be like a Can-Am racing. It's like a NASCAR motor in the sense of back in the day. They built some of the fastest engines out there. It had a Traco engine in it. It had different transmissions, different rear ends, different gears. So they would use it as a test car, one of the early test cars for the magazines. And then Cam actually goes in the warehouse and sees it. And this is I'm going by Cam's story. So and says, I'd like to buy the car. Is it for sale? It was for sale. He buys a car for $3,000. It still belonged to the production company. He gets it. Now they have it. This thing is a beast. What did it do? Like 140 or something?
Yes.
So Cam and Jim are Mulholland Drive in California, and they're going around curves. They go over the edge. They go over the edge on this Camaro, 72 Camaro, and it gets stuck. Doesn't go all 250 feet down to the bottom. About 50 feet down, it gets stuck. So it's still got 250 feet more to go down to the bottom of this cliff. And then the headlights are still on. It's running. They ended up making it back up to the top. There wasn't no cell phones back there. I don't know, 80s, maybe there was pagers or whatever they had. They get a ride. They get a tow truck wrecker. The wrecker gets back to pull the car up. In California, supposedly there's pylons to keep people from going all the way over. That's what caught the car. As the tow truck driver is pulling it back up the hill, Cam notices that all three tires are up on the wrecker, and he says the cable's about to snap. The cable snaps, and there goes the car all the way down to the bottom. Headlights still on. Never flips, but all the way down to the bottom. Long story short, the next morning, I think they made their way down there to shut it off, turn off the headlights.
No, not true.
Not true.
Not true. They did not make their way down there to shut off the headlights. It wasn't until they pulled the car out that they were actually able to do that. So
it was there overnight, I guess, with the headlights on. They get the car out, and they replace the front nose, the sheet metal, and the car lives on. Still ran just as fast, and Cam said that several other different people have owned this car, and it was sold at Mecum not too long ago, several years back, and they had a poster with all the people that owned it from the very beginning, and Jim Losee was in that list. Jim didn't even know. So the car is still alive, still around, a historic car. Go to Cam Bentley's Facebook page, scroll down. Bentley.
Benty.
Benty. Benty on Facebook, and you'll see the car. Okay. Anything else? More stories. Yeah. I did have a technical answer or a question to answer.
No, you did have one question that was submitted through the email, and that was he's looking for Steve. He needs to buy stud extractors, and he's looking for suggestions for SAE and metric. And folks, just so you know, if there's something specific you'd like addressed, go ahead and submit your questions prior to the show to therealshopmom@gmail.com. And one, as I told you, if your nieces would like some Faye memorabilia, just shoot me an email and we'll get them some out.
Well, good.
Okay.
I don't know what to talk
Stud
about.
extractors.
Yeah, I was talking about stud extractors. Okay. Now, old school, back in the day, you had two nuts you tightened up against each other, extract a stud. Sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't. Flathead Fords, it ain't gonna work because we know they have water in the studs, so you can pretty much forget that. But this is all we had as a kid or growing up. That's your stud extractor, which Snap-on still has this. eBay, everybody in the world, Napa, AutoZone, everybody's going to have this one. It's Lyle, made by Lyle, or I mean, there's many of them. And all it is a little wheel, and the stud goes in that hole. And when you turn it, it locks it. There's two different holes for two different size studs, for a real big stud and a little stud. Not really. Yes, it'll extract the stud, but it has a serrated round disc that when you turn it, that's what bites into the stud. So it's going to tear up a set of studs. If you got to really get on really, really hard and it bites really good, it might break the stud, but it's going to leave these lines in the stud. You're doing it in 1930s, 40s, 50s or something. The lines in the stud, I'll take and polish those lines out. That's what you had to deal with. Fast forward, it doesn't have to be Matco. It can be Snap-on. Everybody just puts their decals on it anyway. I shouldn't say that, but because I don't know. But this extractor set, this is quite old, and I'll still put it back in my box. But you can see how dirty and old it is. But this extractor is really nice. So let me get the biggest one. What it is, it's a hollow socket, and it has 3 roll pins in it. So there's 3 long roll pins, and there's 3 slots. So as you start to turn this, those roll pins come out and grab. So you have 3 roll pins that grab the stud as opposed to fingers with teeth on them. So pretty much you can pull studs out without leaving any marks on the stud whatsoever. He wanted to know an American and metric set. SAE, which since these are adjustable. So that's 3/8, 5/16. They're the same. So the 6 millimeter is going to be the 3/8. But this is the one I use for 5/16 or an 8 millimeter stud. So it doesn't matter. They're adjustable. You're going to get 4. Capri Tools probably has a set. Everybody, I'm sure by now, shouldn't say the word everybody, but that's the way to go. Invest in these little 4 right here. It ain't going to do, because it's weird, because this one says right on it, says here 6 millimeter. I'm doing some Ferraris right now, and they're 6 millimeter, and these just spun right on it. So that's 8 millimeter. Even though it says 6 millimeter, it's 8 millimeter 5/16. It's what I go from there up. But this 4 little set, the best money you can buy. You're not gonna damage the studs. So I hope I gave a little bit of a tech tip of what kind of stud extractor. If you've never seen that kind before, those 3 roll pins are the way to go. The newest modern, I don't know about it, I've owned that for a long time, but that's what I would do. Okay.
So funny. I said that's so funny. Lawnmower was saying that the questions were moving along really well.
Yep.
And that Shop Mom won't have to threaten to use the timer. I, of course, reply, I don't threaten, I promise. I deliver when I...
Yes, a threat means you just say something, you're not going to do it.
And Terry says, Shop Mom will just walk over and turn off the camera.
Yes. Yes, so...
oh, good. Austin's here. Austin says, great news, Shop Mom and Danny. The new Volvo's up and running. Engine's purring like a kitten. Can't believe Danny pulled off that valve job using the existing lifter buckets. Outstanding. Thanks for the positive review, Austin, but you knew that's what you were getting when you walked in the door.
Thank Austin, and that's the Two White and Nerdy's Austin, and we've been doing some Volvo heads from them, and they're, they have lifter bucket stuff. Austin, I've been working on a Ferrari longer than could have probably made the car. That's not true, but 2 weeks on a valve job. When it comes in, I document everything, and I was not impressed of where all the valve heights were. But we document everything, and I'll do a valve job if it's right when it comes in, and I don't have to change the shims. Because if I cut 1 or 2 thousandths off the seat and the valve, I can cut 1 or 2 thousandths off the stem, and everything is perfect with the same shims. These heads came in way at the out of spec range. I mean, just so far out. And then all the valves were replaced. And while they're nice quality stainless valves, there's some discrepancies by a thousandth or two in lengths of the valves. So it took a lot of work. When you have 4 valves per cylinder and it's a V8, just juggling every valve in every hole, making a note, the clearance with this valve and this shim in this hole is this. Writing them all down and then going, oh, this is way too loose over here. Oh, over here I see a shim is way too tight. Moving the shims around, moving valves around, moving, till I got everything at 80% of where I like, numbered everything with the black marker, and then started doing all my machine work. And then I got them all within 5/10.
I mean, you people have no idea how precise Danny has to be with his work.
You might look at a short YouTube short that I did on the bucket machining or the shim machining. Don't try this at home, people. And actually, the video shows how you could do this at home. So please try this at home. Even though it's very sophisticated and it's simple. It's super simple, and you can pretty much, that's where my uncle or Chief comes in at. We got it done. Now, Chief never left the shop until the work was done. He was there at 12, 1 in the morning.
Yeah, but he'd also come in at 11.
He come in at 11, and he's also, yes. But he says, tomorrow we got other work to do. So if we saw the light at the end of the tunnel, like, well, okay, now we're at this point, like now everything has to just be washed and assembled. Everything is done. I mean, everything is, the cams are polished. Everything is done. Well, Chief would go, okay, in another 2 hours, bring some beer. We're going to put it together tonight. But that was Chief. So
Okay,
anyway.
I have another question.
Yes, please.
This is one who always wants to know if you really look for those parts all day.
I
just scored 2 V8s, 305 cubic inch and a 262, 80s version, going in an 86 C10. I'm contemplating TPI, or crossfire injection to be different. Any words of wisdom or caution, other ideas? Thanks all.
I have a lot of advice or been there, done it, and I'm not trying to, I have a friend of mine, I don't know if I told the story here, but I've told it many times. I'll tell it here really quickly. A friend of mine, Roland, has the original truck that he bought right out of high school. He's very well off, has a construction company. He's got not one of every kind of vet, but he got one of every style of vet.
Getting rid of things.
Yes, and he just never gets rid of things. Well, he wanted to restore this truck because he used it for work for many, many years, and he wanted to restore this truck. So, okay, we're going to build him a motor. It's a 305 motor. And I'm like, Roland, let's put a 350 in it. You don't need a 305, put a 350 in it, and nope, it's the original engine, numbers matching, but price is no object. You spend as much on whatever to gain anything out of it. I'm like, challenge, okay, I'll take that challenge. Carb line, I can pick whatever cam I want. I can do whatever I want as long as I use the 305. I said, I'm going to make it efficient. I'm going to make it have as much horsepower as the 350. I'm going to make it have so much good gas mileage. I'm going to have this list of things because, Rosa, I don't care. I don't care what it costs. I got to have my 305 back in there. So we did. I got to have pictures of when we did this 20 years ago. And boy, I did everything I possibly could. 30 years ago?
30 years.
Running. 30 years ago we built this thing. Man, what did I learn? I learned how Roland said, I told him, don't do it, Roland. You got to, and he says, no, we're going to do it. So I didn't feel bad, but it gave me the opportunity to just do everything to it. Boy, it might as well have been a 350. Gas mileage didn't really achieve nothing really. I mean, a little bit. We did make a nice 305, but I didn't go crazy on a lot of compression. It was going to be a driver. So we try to do everything, and I try to do every little bit of porting, get more airflow. I tried everything. A stock, old, worn out 350 would have just done everything at the less money. So what am I going to say about that is that be careful if in your intent. If you're thinking that a smaller cubic inch motor might be a great gas mileage vehicle, remember, it still weighs the same as the 350. Still weighs the same. So there's no substitute for cubic inches, like Smokey says. So, and I've done this also. V6, okay, Chevy V6, 4.3s. Owned them, done it. I mean, I might as well have a V8. Got the same gas mileage as a V8. Yeah, they got a lot of power, but just really wasn't the 262, Jim. Okay, all that being said, what are we building for Jim right now? That Jim
283.
A 283. So we're doing a 283 for Jim. Jim, bullet cams, ground us a custom. Thanks, Mark Chacon. This is a month or so ago, a little while back. We came up with it's a special cam for this. Jim specs. Jim laid it all out. The special manifold is not like a normal manifold. It's a little bitty port manifold. High velocity. We're building high velocity 283. Even had to find an early Nova 283 block. So everything is here. A lot of parts are here. Some parts are still coming in. So we are going to build this for Jim, and then we're going to put it on the dyno, and we're going to dyno it and run it. I wish I would have had a little bit of more insight to turn the camera on and say, Jim, what's the horsepower? What's the torque? Just so that when we do this, I could play that back and y'all could go, this Jim dude is just a bad mojo. But he was. He really
mofo,
was.
Not mojo.
Oh, mofo. Sorry, I got my words wrong every time.
That's right.
This is the specs on. So Jim was in. He called me, and we have an hour or so conversation from the hospital. So
this is at the time we're being told he has dementia.
Yes.
Which
this is one of the false diagnoses that he has dementia and he doesn't have long to live. We've been telling Jim for 10 years.
you're right, he didn't have long to live.
Yeah, but okay. So we spent an hour or so on the phone, and this is all Jim's firing all cylinders. Jim knows part numbers, casting numbers. So we're going to build a 9.64 compression ratio, 283. He had a 600 Holly done by a friend of his that they're looking for the carb now. He had it built specifically for this build. We're going to run 305 cylinder heads on it. Because the 283 is just going to take so much to get them up to snuff of what we needed. But yet, I had a set of 305 HO heads, cores, that we pulled out. Jim had to come one of the last, not the last time, but just not too long ago. Had to lay them all out, and Jim, bring me those heads. And he still physically was a little bit, he had a cane and a walker, but boy, Jim could bark orders like nobody else. Bring me those heads. Okay, pull those out. Okay, let's take a look at it. He was, yes. Bring me that manifold. I had a manifold hanging on the shelf. I said, I think that manifold might work. Get it down. Let's look at the manifold. Jim, slow down. But that being said, RPM range for this motor that we're building for Jim, 2,000 to 6,000 RPM, is going to have a 2000 R4. He loved that transmission.
Yeah, he did.
A 267 first gear, which, I mean, everything is on here. He was just amazing. I
If
loved.
y'all don't have a friend like Jim, I'm sorry for you. You need to look for one, because he was a hoot.
And
I can't tell you how much we're going to miss him around here, but every time we do a build, we're going to remember the wisdom that he imparted before he left.
And I think I have the great ending.
The rest stop story?
Well, this is I have the best ending, and I'm gonna throw myself with a story when I first met Jim. Jim has had before this health issues, and his speech was impaired, and he had real bad. I need to bring you some notes that he wrote me.
He had Parkinson's.
Because afterwards he had Parkinson's, but boy, we calmed him down. When you got his head focused on something, The last engine that we did a 427. I can keep on going. We did a 427 small block Chevy. He's over there deburn everything. It's just, you got to focus the mind and what he's doing. He could hold a die grinder, just, man. So when he first called, there was somebody on the phone that was talking a little slower, slurred speech a little bit, talking slow, asked me for the timing tape. Yes, we have it. When he first walks in, Parkinson's real bad, and I grab it. Hey, the story is true. I do that to everybody. Anybody who knows me and walks in, I want to find out, why do you need this? Why do you need this? And instantly, like I said, at the time, Jim had lost patience for people, because people judge. People judge the way you look, the way you talk, the way your hands move. They think this guy's slow, So people don't listen. So he was kind of frustrated. I remember telling Jim, with the iPhone, you can speak into the iPhone and you're still a good technical editor. You could still be writing things. But anyway, that's a different story. I fell for that. I know that's what I thought when I remember. I think this guy's clown. What is it, And then he comes in and until I finally go, what do you need this for? And then he started talking, and there's talking of timing curves. It didn't matter about his speech. It didn't matter when he started talking timing curves, and I walked him over to the counter. Well, come on, it was over. We were connected, kindred souls. But it was like, oh my God, there's knowledge that this man had in his head. Then I'm gonna end this tonight. Got a little bit left to go, but I'm gonna give people a chance. Had I just done the same thing with Jim, I would have lost the opportunity of 10 years with Jim. So that's all I want to say.
And that's an important thing to say. I know we're going to wrap up because there's a storm coming and I don't want to be out in the storm. But one does want to go back and revisit the 305 262. He says he got them because they were free, but he's also getting a Holly 3-barrel card.
Awesome.
I don't know what to believe in the net. Is the 3-barrel junk?
No.
It's just a weekend ice cream getter, friend helper pickup build.
All right. Let's talk. Well,
or it's just a weekend.
I'd love to talk more about this. We still got about 7 minutes. The Harley 3-barrel is a iconic carburetor that I would be one of those guys who say it's junk, but go ahead and send it to me. One of those. It's a unique carburetor. Me and Jim would love it because it gives us a talking point. And we would probably put it on the dyno and just play with it. It's a unique carburetor. It has a specific use, but it is the shit. So excuse my language, the shit.
Yeah, watch your language.
So we'll talk maybe more about. Also going to say.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Want to wrap up.
I want to wrap up because I just wanted to leave it on Jim because like I said, don't judge. Don't presume things. Don't presume. There's tons of people out there with so much knowledge, and they're introverts because of what we have done to them or whatever. I don't allow people the chance to.
It could be because of a speech impediment. It could be because they're insecure. It could be because they've been bullied. Again, let's go back to what we've always said here in this group. Be kind. Start a trend. Be different from everybody else out there.
And then I'm gonna leave. I'm leaving it all the time with all kinds of stuff, and there's too much brake fluid in the air in this room. But if you haven't gotten your Smokey Belongs decals, it is not too late. I'm not saying that Trish is gonna look at this nice little note she wrote. This comes in the mail this week, and. I'm not saying he's going to send you a T-shirt. They do sell these shirts, and this isn't an advertisement. But I was kind of like, what is that? And it's from Trish. And thank you, Trish. Anybody out there, tell them, hey, I want that shirt that Danny was showing. Go buy a shirt. This isn't anything more. Like I said, these are free. These are free. All you have to do is connect with her and SmokeUnic.com and just tell her your address. She'll send these out. She doesn't want the address to put you on a email list Nobody's selling anything. She writes the envelopes herself. She pays for these herself. She sends them out herself. It's just, we know where Smokey belongs, right? We all know where Smokey belongs. What do you have to do? Post it on your forehead, post it on your window, your toolbox, your drawer, your whatever you want to post it on. Take a picture of it. Hashtag Smokey Belongs. Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, any of the social medias that you use, Facebook, whatever it may be, hashtag Smokey Belongs. You done your job. And you got the decal. You got all three of them. Like I said, you might even get a special handwritten note from Trish. All right. So that is, I think,
We're gonna wrap up. There's a big storm coming.
There's a big storm coming, and there's brake fluid, tons of brake fluid in the room. So we're gonna call it, and everybody go out there and hug somebody.
Be kind.
Be kind. Be kind. Give somebody a chance. Don't just
Look
judge.
for the best in others.
Like I said, I'm guilty of that myself. So don't judge. Be kind. Peace and assembly grease. Think of Jim. Say a little prayer for Jim. Jim's in a better place, so say a prayer for us. Jim doesn't need a prayer right now. Say a prayer for Jeannie. All right. Peace and assembly grease. We love y'all. We'll see you next Friday.